Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a fun second video for you today. Seems like Justin Trudeau was in Gresmore Academy in Nova Scotia, I believe, and he was taking some questions on the supply and confidence agreement that the NDP just backed out of today, and he was also taking some questions, or I assume, I haven't seen it yet, of the school lunch program. Now, we all know my view from previous videos about the school lunch program, but let's get our information from the horse's mouth, shall we? Now, let's begin.
So you no longer have the support of the NDP. Your party is trailing in the polls, and the Conservatives are calling for an election. Is it time to send Canadians to the polls?
We're here today because we're delivering on school lunches and school food for thousands of kids across the province, and we're making investments that are going to be helping hundreds of thousands of kids across the country as people step up. These are the kinds of things that Canadians are looking for. As I traveled across the country this summer, people talk to me about making ends meet. They talk to me about the high cost of rent and the need for more housing. They talk to me about the environment and climate change and the impacts of it. And these are the things that we're focused on. I'll let others focus on politics, but I will point out that I really hope the NDP stays focused on how we can deliver for Canadians, as we have over the past years, rather than focusing on politics.
Okay, so he says that when he went around Canada, people really were telling him that they really wanted a school lunch program. I highly doubt that, because before the great cold of 2021, parents just packed lunches for their own kids, and they made it by just fine. That's what they did. That's what my mom and dad did for me, and that's what the moms and dads did before them, and they made it fine. Why all of a sudden does Justin Trudeau have to bring in a school lunch program? I'll tell you why. Because he made Moneymaker go burr and thought that deficits balanced themselves, and proved you wrong. And so the other thing is bill. People have been talking to him apparently about their bills, and he has no answer for that, or must not, because he's been increasing the carbon tax every single year since its inception in 2015, and inflation is still going up, even though he says that inflation is lower than wage growth. But normal people know that inflation never goes down, like never goes into the negatives, so prices will just keep on going up. And it's gone up in 2021 by like 8%, and in 2023 it went up about 5%. And I don't know who's working where, but I haven't gotten a 13% increase in raises, and I don't think most people have in 2 years. So, and yeah, about the environment, well, he's all about the carbon tax, so I honestly don't think a lot of people's worries are about the environment right now. I think it's mostly, how do I pay my mortgage bill and feed my kids? And all Justin Trudeau has to say is, interest rates are going down, even though you bought $1 million house. School lunch program.
Follow. What will become of the programs that you announced as part of the agreement that you had with the NDP, such as pharmacare and dental care?
Well, we have delivered on dental care. 500,000 Canadian seniors have now accessed dental care just in the past few months, despite Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives' opposition to it every step of the way. 500,000 Canadian seniors have now had dental care, many for the first time in decades. This is a program that has helped Canadians. We still have work to do to continue rolling out dental care, and I hope the NDP will continue to fight for that. This fall, we're going to be moving forward on making sure that nobody has to choose between paying for groceries or rent or paying for much-needed insulin. Pharmacare is going to become a reality as we work on that in the House, and I hope the NDP stays focused on that. As a government, we're going to stay focused on delivering for Canadians at a time where people need that. We have, and the Bank of Canada announcement today underscored that, we have the strongest fiscal position of any country in the G7 right now. My belief, our belief is we need to set that fiscal position to work for Canadians by delivering spaces at $10 a day in daycares across the country, delivering dental care, rolling out to Canadians with disabilities and kids under 18, delivering a school food program that's going to make sure that kids don't sit in class too focused on their bellies rumbling to focus on the teacher. These are things that Canadians care about and need. These are the things that this government continues to focus on.
And why are those kids' stomachs rumbling, Trudeau? Are they gonna ask him why? Because you made everything so expensive. You and your carbon tax. You and your inflationary spending. He still hasn't told us how we are going to pay for all of these new programs that are extremely expensive. Because it's not like the money comes out of nowhere to pay for, well, it comes out in inflation to pay for all of this, but they're increasing taxes like crazy. And yeah, it's to pay for this dental care plan that most of us have dental care through our work, unless you're at a private business or own your own business, and then it does help. But most provinces has their own sort of dental care sort of thing. Alberta has its own, but it's like a dental care insurance through Alberta Health Insurance, and that's what most provinces have. So that's why a lot of dentists and stuff aren't taking this up. Same with the pharmacare plan. It's only got two drugs for people with diabetes that it covers, and family planning medication, which is ridiculous that we're even spending our tax money on this. And it's taxes. Either Justin Trudeau's too ignorant to know that's how Canadians pay for these things, or he's just being ignorant. He's just pretending, and he's doing this maliciously.
Next question.
Prime Minister Don Bradshaw, NTV. Have you had an opportunity to think about what your fall will look like now? Will it be just a regular return to the House of Commons, or do you now have to start thinking about maybe calling an election before something happens?
I am not focused on politics. I'll let other parties focus on politics. I'm focused on actually delivering the things that Canadians told me this summer they need. I had thousands of conversations with people across the country. Very few of them wanted to talk politics. They wanted to talk how are they going to make sure that they can afford their rent as they get back to school in the fall, how they're going to be able to hope to one day be able to own a home. That's why we're investing in the most ambitious home building program the country has ever seen. They want to know how we're going to help with the price of groceries. Well, rolling out these school food programs right across the country as more provinces come on board is going to make a real difference in families' bottom lines. I'm focused on Canadians. I'll let the other parties focus on politics.
But
So you're not going to focus on your job. Trudeau, you're a politician. You're supposed to focus on politics. That's like me going to work and telling my boss, no, I'm not going to focus on what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to focus on what other people want to do. Or honestly, I don't even know a good analogy for that, because through politics is how all of these plans for Canadians get through. The easiest thing, Trudeau, the easiest thing to do is to get rid of the carbon tax. So when people talk to you about their bills, about everything, about how they're going to pay for stuff, you take off the carbon tax or pause it or something. That's what these Canadians are hoping you say when they tell you that they're suffering. And yet you don't care because you're bringing in programs that's just going to add to inflation or add to taxes. One of the two.
With that said, you have to focus on politics at some point when you look at what you're doing. The announcement today, for example, the Bank of Canada rate dropping, it would seem like these would be positive signs that maybe you would want to go to the polls with. So when do you start thinking politically?
Delivering for Canadians is at the heart of what politics is supposed to be about. We're about being there to make sure that as Canadians are hurting, but as our economy is in many ways one of the strongest in the world, certainly in terms of fiscal position, we should be putting that economy to serve them. That's why we stepped up with $10 a day childcare. That's why we've stepped up with dental care. That's why we're continuing to fight for pharmacare. This is why we're drawing in investment from around the world at levels that nobody's ever seen. We're up 60% in foreign direct investment. Last year, we were the #1 country per capita among advanced economies in the G20 for companies wanting to invest in Canada. There is opportunity in Canada that we cannot let slide. That's what we're focused on. An election will come in the coming year, hopefully not till next fall, because in the meantime, we're going to deliver for Canadians, and the contrast with a Conservative leader that wants to cut dental care, cut the school food program, cut insulin through pharmacare, cut the programs that Canadians are relying on to help them through this difficult time, well, that'll be a political decision that Canadians get to take in an election. But in the meantime, I'm not letting down Canadians, and I'm going to stay focused on them. La réalité.
Yes, you are letting down Canadians, and this is what needs to be like drilled into his head. And this thing about Pierre Poilievre cutting things, I think through his head, it stems from like because the Conservatives didn't vote for these bills, but people forget these bills were corrupted when they were put through. They were. They had tax increases and different things inside buried in these bills, and that's why the Conservatives didn't vote for them. So it's most likely that Pierre Poilievre probably will cut the school lunch program because we don't need it and we can't afford it. And he might probably cut the pharmacare plan because most provinces already have their own style of pharmacare plan. I know Ontario does. Alberta sort of does. So, and it's something we have to do. We're over $2 trillion in debt. And I'll bring up the graph again. When he keeps saying that, oh, we're in the best situation in all the G7. We're the best country ever. I'll show you how that isn't true. Here, right here. I had this graph on my previous video on Justin Trudeau and his last rant about how good our GDP is. Out of all the G7 countries, and this is from Statistica. So, gross domestic product, GDP of the G7 countries from 2000 to 2004. And you can see Canada, blue, right here. We are one of the weakest countries. We are right in line with Italy. And Italy's a lot smaller than we are. So I don't know where Justin Trudeau gets away with saying that we're the bee's knees of the G7 and we have all this money to spend on more and more and more and more programs, because we don't. Maybe if we were France, I'd be like, okay, we are doing awesome. We need to do that. Yeah, let's do this. But no, we have a GDP in 2024 of... Is that right? Sorry, I have to take... Yeah, we have a GDP of 2,242. Let that sink in, people. Let that sink in. Oh, sorry, I was looking at... wrong thing. If we had a GDP like the United States, then I'd say... Sorry, not France. I was looking at something different. But still... Maybe if it was going like the United States, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, we have enough money to maybe implement something like a school lunch program, right? It's kind of easy, it'll help with agriculture, help with farmers, yada, 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 a little bit more. And we have the money to do it. But we don't. So, Justin Trudeau's plan, moneymaker go burr. Or budgets balance themselves, just like he always says. And when he keeps saying, lastly on it, when he keeps saying that he's going to focus on helping Canadians and not politics, it sounds a lot like in the past when he said that the government will go into debt so Canadians won't have to. And guess what? Canadians went into debt. So I think the same thing is going to happen. He's going to focus on Canadians, but in the wrong way. He's going to focus on making our lives worse.
The reality is that for several years now, we've been there and we've been delivering for Canadians, whether it be dental care, whether it be affordability with investments in housing, grocery assistance, a school food program. We are there to deliver, and we're going to continue to deliver. We're going to continue to fight at the House of Commons. And if other parties want to play petty politics rather than deliver, well, Canadians can decide. But my priority is to be there for people during difficult times. While we do have one of the best fiscal positions of any G7 country, we should be investing in Canadians, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
CBC, just to get back to the NDP announcement today, what conversations did you have with Mr. Singh prior to today's announcement?
I have had, over the past number of years, many conversations about how we get things done for Canadians, and that has led to things like $10 a day childcare, dental care that has made a huge impact, but both of those things have more work to do in Parliament this fall, as we're moving forward on pharmacare as well, to make sure that free prescription contraceptives, to make sure that free insulin is available to Canadians. These are things that I know the NDP should care about, because Canadians care about it. So I look forward to conversations with Mr. Singh about how we're going to continue to demonstrate that confident countries invest in their citizens, invest in their future, because that's what we're doing.
Well, leading up to today's announcements by the NDP, Pierre Poilievre had made a call to the NDP to get out of that governance agreement. Is there a fear that these two parties will form a similar type agreement, and how would that affect you leading into the next year and the next election?
I think Canadians are beginning to realize that Pierre Poilievre is wrong when he says he doesn't want to invest in food for kids at school. He's wrong when he doesn't want to see $10 a day childcare spaces created. He's wrong when he doesn't want to see free insulin go to Canadians in need who are fighting diabetes. He's wrong to not want to put the strongest, balance sheet in the G7 in service of Canadians. Confident countries invest in their citizens and in their future. That's what we're doing. That's a choice he wants to take away from Canadians. And I truly believe that progressive parties like the NDP and we Liberals need to continue to deliver for people in this challenging time, because that's how we've grown the economy over the past years. That's how we'll continue to be there long into the future for Canadians.
Next question.
No, good governments are smaller governments, and they don't oppress their citizens like you do. They don't bring in things like Bill C-11 that shuts down speech online. They don't oppress media companies so nobody can post news media on their websites. They don't make it so the United States has to sue, well, not the United States, but these companies based in the United States has to sue Canada because of their laws. And the conservatives, they do want to cut. They want to cut taxes. These progressive NDP and liberal governments, what they want to do is they just want to put their thumb on you and push as hard as they can and squash you by implementing a carbon tax and increasing it every single year, even when we're in a recession, even when people are even when 2 million people are going to the food banks, even when 25% of Canadians, that's a quarter of Canadians, are living in poverty. And all these progressives can think up is to bring in a school lunch program, bring in a pharmacare plan when every other province has a better pharmacare plan. And he says all of this stuff and the $10 a day daycare, which he knows is utterly failing in Ontario because it doesn't provide enough money to the actual daycares to keep on running. Not knowing where the money for anything is going to come from, except for the rich will keep on paying for this. Even though probably the rich have already escaped to the United States or somewhere else. But that's just me.
Obliged with an answer in French as well, please.
Okay.
I, Justin Brake, The Independent. Mr. Trudeau, no doubt this is a very positive announcement in the fact that there are going to be a lot of students in this province and eventually around Canada who won't be hungry at school during the day. I know that there are a lot of students and parents and teachers and a lot of people across the country who are wondering why, given the compassion we have for our own children here, the Canadian government remains complicit in the slaughter of civilians, including children and students in Palestine. What do you say to all the students who are watching, wondering why Canada hasn't done more to end that violence?
We have been calling for a ceasefire since December. We need to see an end to the violence. We need to see a return of the hostages. We need to see Hamas lay down its arms and stop using Palestinian children and civilians as shields. We need to see the Israeli government abide by international law and rules. And we need an immediate ceasefire. We need to get back on that path towards a two-state solution where a peaceful, secure Israel lives alongside a peaceful, secure Palestinian state. That is the work that Canada has been doing on the world stage for many months. That is what we are going to continue to do, to push for that two-state solution.
Follow up. It hasn't really been having an impact, though, and a lot of people have been saying for months that the Canadian government should unequivocally condemn Israel, cut diplomatic ties, and categorically have an arms embargo. including sending weapons and arms goods to other countries like the United States. We know they're getting stuff from Quebec that are then being sent to Israel to bomb Palestinians. Why haven't you put an end to that?
Israel has a right to defend itself in accordance with international law. On October 7th of last year, they lived through one of the most horrific terrorist attacks in history. And we need to continue to stand for peace, for Israelis, for Palestinians in the region long into the future. That's why we're calling on Hamas to lay down its arms. That's why we're calling for Israel to abide by international law. That's why we're calling for an immediate ceasefire so that we can get massive amounts of humanitarian aid to end the ongoing tragedies that are happening in Gaza right now. This is an incredibly difficult situation that has repercussions, tangible repercussions on millions of Canadians who are worried about the rise in hatred here at home, who are worried about sending their kids to school as the new school year starts in universities and high schools across the country. We need to remember who we are as Canadians, which is fighting for our values of peace, openness and understanding, putting aside the hate and being committed to a peaceful future in the Middle East where a secure Israel lives alongside a secure and internationally recognized Palestinian state.
It sounds like you're downplaying the significance.
I'm not going to really do any or comment too much on the Israel-Palestine stuff. I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about their history to make a good go about it. I do, my ignorant opinion, I would like to see kind of the same thing where all the hostages come back safely to Israel, but I know some things have happened over the course of the last couple of weeks, so like I said, I don't know enough about it. I'm not going to comment on it, so hopefully we can get to a different sort of question, but let's continue.
Hi, Sanuda Ranawake, CBC News. Prime Minister, considering that you've lost essentially the support of the NDP, what does that mean for some of the projects that you mentioned about giving back to Canadians going forward? How much of a support are you losing here?
Well, I think the NDP is going to have to make decisions about whether or not they want to stand with Pierre Poilievre, who's going to cut the school food programs, cut dental care, not deliver on pharmacare, or whether they're going to focus on what it means to Canadians to be there to give them support through this difficult time and to be investing in the future, whether it's drawing in global investments or fighting climate change at the same time. Every politician gets to choose whether they want to play politics or whether they want to serve Canadians, and I certainly hope that the NDP will stay true to its fundamental values, which is making sure that Canadians get the support they need and keeping away the austerity, the cuts, and the damage that will be done by Conservatives if they get the chance.
Follow-up?
Could I get an answer in French, please?
Okay.
Listen to that. The attacks just, you're not going to play politics, are you, Justin? Are you? You're going to focus on Canadians? Well, you just told everybody that the Conservatives are going to damage the economy if they get in through their cuts. He doesn't say what they're going to cut on that one. Yeah, they're going to cut taxes so people could actually afford to make their kids lunch for school. He's going to cut the carbon tax so we don't have to pay extra for everything. But, nope. In your view, Conservatives, they're just wrong. And then NDP, to be completely honest, I can't see the NDP voting with the Conservatives. They're just too ideologically gone. The only thing that would push them to vote with the Conservatives is if their constituents tell them to. So it's going to be all up to the constituents. And I think right now they're just seeing their polling, and they're so far behind the Conservatives. They're just like they might not even be a party by the time election rolls around, right? We already have a year, and they've just been going down ever since. Plus, they had the new boundary change, and they're going to lose about 3 or 4 seats, I think is what they were saying, to Conservatives anyways. So, is what it is, I guess. Let's see if there's any more, and if there's not, I'll conclude the video.
Your relationship with the provincial government in Newfoundland and Labrador. You've had disagreements before, especially when it comes to things like the carbon tax. But now here you are today announcing almost a deal together. What does this make of your relationship between the government of Newfoundland and Labrador and the federal government?
Well, I think for people who've been paying attention, they've seen that we've been able as a government to sign deals and deliver things for Canadians right across the country. Childcare agreements with Alberta, investments in housing in Saskatchewan. We even managed to make a few agreements signed with New Brunswick. We will work with people across the political spectrum to deliver for Canadians, because that's what Canadians expect. And of course, it's always more fun to be standing beside my friend Andrew to deliver concretely for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. And as we have across the country, there will always be multiple different solutions proposed and perspectives on different challenges, and that's one of the great things about Canada, that we get to work together and figure things out. And I have to say, I rarely have had better partners, even though we've seen disagreements on certain issues. The values are aligned, and the desire to deliver for Canadians is always at the forefront of everything that Andrew does. And I'm really happy to be showcasing that delivering food for kids in schools right across the country starts here in Newfoundland and Labrador because of Andrew Furey's leadership. Okay, what do you want to say a few words, Andrew?
Sure. So I'm happy to address that, and the Prime Minister and I have had frank and conversations about the areas of disagreement, and as the First Minister representing Newfoundland and Labrador, that is my job. My job is to stand up for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. I make no apologies for it, and I will always do it. And so while we have disagreements on things like carbon and cod, what we are here today to discuss is something that there is no disagreement on, that children deserve to go to school not thinking about where they're getting their next meal, that families deserve to have a break on groceries for their children and to take that stress off them. So while there will be disagreements, and managing a broad country with multiple different socio-political interests, perhaps there always should be disagreements. But this is something that we firmly agree on, and I have no doubt every parent in Newfoundland and Labrador would echo that statement.
Thank you, everyone.
I don't think he was talking about like maybe the cod thing in Newfoundland. I'm not too up to date on that. He was talking about the carbon tax, which Trudeau put a halt on home heating oil for 2.5 years, I believe. So until the next election. And the only ones who majorly use home heating oil to heat their homes is people in Newfoundland and Labrador and northern Quebec. So the only people who got a deduction on, or an exception, not a deduction, on their taxes on that is people in Newfoundland and Labrador and northern Quebec. People in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and all from coast to coast still have to pay carbon tax on the natural gas that they use, or if they use coal, or if they use any other source of heating, except for maybe like wind or something. But most places use natural gas. I think, though, in Ontario and some of Quebec, a lot of it's hydro. But anyways, I think that's what he was talking about, not really the way they twisted it, but whatever. It's Justin Trudeau. Of course, he's not going to actually answer the question. What can we expect? And seems like that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys liked it. Let me know what you think about what's going to happen with the NDP down below in the comments. Do you think they're going to vote with the Conservatives to oust this Trudeau government, and we can finally get some common sense into our government? Or do you think they're just going to do the status quo and keep on voting with the Liberals on pretty much everything? Yeah, let me know in the comments below. If you like this content, if you would subscribe, that would be awesome. If I could get up to 300 subscribers by the end of the month, that would be great. And other than that, have a great day.